On November 9th, 2020, our district returned to 100% virtual learning for all students, kindergarten through 12th grade. So what does this mean for our students and for the teachers who instruct them? Hello and welcome to One Troy at Home, the podcast all about teachers while we navigate these unprecedented times here in public education. I'm your host, Thomas Butcher, and let me just say, before we get started, this is a show that I was hoping we wouldn't be making anymore. I'm sure many people would agree, and the reason for that is this show was a result of our district going virtual at the beginning of this pandemic last spring. And while we also began fully virtual at the beginning of this school year, we had since began to transition many of our students to in-seat learning. Our hybrid model was being utilized, and we had students in seat and students who chose to remain virtual. It was looking like this show would no longer be necessary since we were not all separated, not all at home. However, trends in Oakland County have led to a decision that had to be made, and now K through 12 has returned to full virtual learning for the time being. So that's where we are. The format of the show is once again relevant. And so while we are back to remote learning, we are going to have a few discussions with teachers across the district, get their take on things, and maybe even discover a silver lining. So without further ado, my guest today is a fifth grade teacher at Barnard Elementary School, where he is also the technology chairperson. And because that's not enough, he is also involved in the Troy Foundation for Educational Excellence as a trustee and grant administrator. Mr. Scott Germansky, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Let's start by having you walk us through your journey. What has been your mindset and your experience since this all began back in March to these transitional phases we are witnessing now?
So back in March, I was following very closely what was happening. I remember the city of Atlanta was one of the first school districts to close down. And, we were called as tech chairs to come into a services building and put together what we thought was a 3-week interim curricular experience. I think we all had a good thought that it could last longer than 3 weeks. And of course it did. I had a feeling that when I walked out of my classroom on Thursday, the 12th of March, I believe it was that, or perhaps it was the Wednesday before, to plan for this, that I may not be seeing my students in the building again that year. I took it to heart. I think, as teachers, our kids are our families. We start each year barely knowing each other. We're total strangers. And 10 months later, we're forever family. You see your students years later down the road, and you still remember those times when you were a family together. We see our students for almost during the school year as much as their actual families do. So it was tough. Nobody really knew what to expect, but I think the fact that we were, as a tech chair and having a background in technology, I think for me personally, it was a little bit less of a shaky boat ride trying to navigate those waters in early March. And my light will go out from time to time. We're trying to be green. We're trying to save energy. So, but yeah, as the summer months, you'd see the numbers start to wane a little bit. And I had hopes that we would be able to, mask up and bring those numbers down to a manageable level and return back to school with some mitigation strategies. We started virtual. We started bringing kids back. I had 9 students return in seat in my classroom, and we had a nice experience together for those couple of weeks, where we would have what we call the roomies and the zoomies, the kids that were still virtual and the kids that were in seat. And, at Barnard, we really just thrive off of the 3 R's, as we call it: not reading, writing, arithmetic, but responsibility, respect, and building positive relationships. So everything that we've done so far has been trying to maintain and build upon those 3 R's in the building.
You surely never have to worry about the lights going out when you actually have students in the building. So
that is true.
That's funny. How would you describe your relationship with your students and them with each other? Are you able to find moments where the class is still having fun together, even though it is now virtual again?
I would absolutely say that we have maintained a full level of relationship, equal to, being in seat. I feel very confidently in saying that, there are almost 20 kids in my class that I have never met physically. And I feel like I know them as well as I know the students that were in seat, as well as I've known any student that I've ever had before. I mean that honestly and truly. And I believe that the students would say the same if you ask them, that they feel like they know Mr. Germansky very well, through, all of the different things that we do within the curriculum, but also community building, morning meeting. There are so many games that I've Googled, some of them that I've thought of myself, but we did a spontaneous talent show today. We've played rock, paper, scissors tournaments. Kids have shown off a lot of the things that they have at home that I wouldn't have been able to see if they were in school, getting ready to celebrate Diwali, other holidays, Dia de los Muertos. I got to see all wonderful, cool things about students' cultures and bringing to life, like I said, that I wouldn't get to see if we were in person. So there's no doubt about it. We're still having fun. I feel happy that I'm in 5th grade. I feel like the kids are a little bit more independent at that age and that they can manage a lot of the different technology that we're doing. But we're learning, we're having fun, and it's been a very positive experience.
It's always great to hear, because school is not just about filling out worksheets and taking tests, but the community aspect of it is always such an important part of it. So that's always great to hear. What does the curriculum look like for 5th grade? What's a typical day for their learning?
Great question. And, it goes without saying that this has all been challenging. I don't want to say that this has not been a challenging endeavor, because it's really what the teachers are doing. My fellow teachers, we are just really making wonderful things happen, because when you just look at the technology itself, which is mind-blowing. I'll talk about the technology later. But when you just look at the technology itself, it's very it can lead to a 20th century learning modality of, the student, the teacher talking most of the time, and the students doing a lot of the consumption. You talk about the ratio of consumption to creation in your classroom, and what the ratio of the teacher talking versus the student talking. But I know for a fact, being in touch with so many different teachers around the building at every level, that we are working day in, day out to take things and make them work in an environment where you cannot reach out and touch your student, or help them in any type of way, lean over in their ear, whisper something. It's been challenging, but it's been really rewarding. So to take you through a day in the life of the 5th grade, we have our morning meeting, and then we have math, right? So we try to keep that math workshop alive, where I try to talk for like only 10 or 15 minutes, and then I have students break out into breakout rooms where they're doing different activities, and sometimes students are getting help, and sometimes they're helping. There's a wonderful program called Class Kick. I'll talk about that later, that lets students help each other. There's chances for students to be in breakout rooms where they're getting work that's above level, kind of enrichment style activities. Reading and writing, it's more of the same in the fact that we're trying to keep that workshop alive, where the teacher is giving a little strategy in a 15-minute mini lesson scenario. And then once again, we got to break out. We got to get those kids into small group settings where they feel like they're in a group, right? That's that 21st century learning where the teacher is the facilitator of the learning experience. And the students are the ones taking charge and really working together in a collaboration type environment. That's what the teachers have been trying to do with the technology, and it's been working great. So students go off and they do independent work. I'm able to pull groups of students that, once again, need a little bit of a refresher. That one-on-one time is just, there's nothing that beats one-on-one instruction. And then, of course, with my medium and higher achieving learners, so we can make sure that they're not bumping up against the ceiling as well. Science, we've been rotating between social studies and science, and we just started a new science unit. And we have no kit, and we have, I could, even if I could demonstrate or model certain things, it's just going to look and feel a little bit different. But Shout out to Marie Woodman and Evan Rokicki. They're doing a great job making science and social studies inquiry-based. Once again, letting students, going off of, what they've done is they've taken the next generation science standards that Michigan and many other states have adopted, which is just all about teachers, facilitators, students in charge of the learning, getting the first crack at it. That's what I always tell the kids. You're going to get the first crack at it when it comes to learning new material, and then I'm going to help guide your thinking from there. And it's been a challenging experience, but in many ways, there have been things like, a theme here is that there are things that we're able to do that we might not have been able to do if they were in the seats with us.
Before kids are thinking about high school or middle school, they're thinking about the day they will finally become a fifth grader. When you're in fifth grade, you're the kings and queens of the school, right? You're the big kids. I'm curious, in your role as a fifth grade teacher, is there a goal to help transition these younger learners to have a big kid mindset? Are they given more responsibility? Are there higher expectations? What happens in fifth grade that prepares them to keep looking ahead?
This is my 8th year in a row teaching fifth grade. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love it so much. It's such a wonderful year. As you mentioned in your description, they really do take on a new level of responsibility. You go from, as we say, learning to read to reading to learn. So there's a level of increased and uptick responsibility in the world of their curriculum, not just in the things that they're doing with around the school building itself. Fifth grade is a really interesting age because the students respond to being, interacted and spoken to with that elementary style, where we can play a fun game and be silly and, kind of access that real little kid, but they also completely respond to the secondary level, to the level of thinking and depth of knowledge, accessing those upper levels of the depth of knowledge charts. And it's really just amazing. It's an amazing year. That being said, without them being in the building, it's a little bit of a challenge to give them the experience of being the kings and queens of the school. When they're not really seeing the other grade levels on a day in and day out basis. When the students were in seat, we did start providing some safety patrol like tasks with leading the kindergartners out to the bus each day. And the students responded very well to that. They were itching for the opportunity. So in fifth grade this year, our theme is Be the Change 2021. And I'm starting to see that more and more, which is, it's kind of a two-part, right? So you want to be the change you wish to see in the world, but you also want to take ownership over the change that's happening to us right now and being enacted upon us. So as the year goes on and we can start to think about it a little bit more, we want the kids to experience that fifth grade level of responsibility through being the change we want to see in the world, even from our own homes, trying to develop different subtle projects that we can do in our community to make an impact.
Scott, we mentioned that you are the tech chair at your school. What's it like working with your fellow teachers, Principal Morey, and the whole team at Barnard?
It's absolutely fantastic. I love Barnard so much, and our team here is fabulous. It's funny because the tech chair role has, of course, increased dramatically this year. I mean, in the years past, it was like, hello, anything I can do for you? Like, can I show you this cool app? Like, because that's our charge, right? To implement 21st century technology into the classroom. It's really not like, hey, my monitor broke. Can you help me? Like, that's our wonderful, amazing building tech, Mrs. Johnson. She is an absolute pillar of amazingness in our school, and she's at Hamilton as well, excuse me. But as the tech chair, that's my role. And in the past, teachers have been a little bit less responsive. Not everybody wants me coming in their classroom and bugging them. This year has been very different. And, the list of things that people need, and rightfully so, was so vast, especially in August and September and October. And a mantra that I've developed over the here is that your sigh of relief is my sigh of relief. So just the requests have dropped off for like just basic help in setting up with the technology. And now teachers are starting to say like, hey, I heard about Class Kick. I heard about Seesaw. You know, our PTO was wonderful enough to get us the pro version of Seesaw this year. And so now I can get back to my initial role of helping teachers use that 21st century technology, and to circle back, doing all that we can to make learning from a distance 21st century style, like we've always had, trying to make that exact same teaching like we've always had. So everyone in my building works together. There are so many other people in the building that are tech savvy as well. You know, Blair Schwartz, Joel Podjakowski, Autumn Winarski, our literacy specialist. These are people that work with me. We all work together. If it was just me, we wouldn't be able to make it work. So I'm just so proud of everybody at Barnard. And of course with, you know, Melanie Mori, our principal as well. She's just a fearless leader that has our back at all times. And it's just a pleasure being in this building.
We want to make sure we touch on your work with the TFEE now, just in case somebody listening is not aware. What is the TFEE and why do they exist?
So the TFEE, as most people know, they may not know what it stands for. It stands for the Troy Foundation for Educational Excellence. They're a grant foundation, and you know, I signed on last year as the grant administrator and a trustee to help them with the vision of the foundation, which is to impact classrooms with innovation through grant opportunities and helping build the excellence that the Troy District stands for educationally and in all the pillars. So, of course, the main role that they were interested in would be having somebody that is tech savvy and try to streamline the grant authorship, the grant submission, the grant reading in a way that would make it easier for our trustee group. So I was able to do some things using an add-on to Microsoft, and it's a program that allowed us to just be a lot more efficient with that process. Of course, this year things look a little bit different. We were all set to go with a program that would fully fund middle school ELA libraries, massive program. But after looking at what the process of doing that would look like in a year like this, we've decided to delay it 1 year. And then, of course, we thought, what would help impact teachers, which would, of course, therefore impact students and student learning in this virtual experience, this 1 year total shift in teaching and learning. And that's where we came up with this initiative of the innovation tech menu, where, you know, over 800 people have the opportunity to choose something that they feel would positively impact their virtual teaching experience for their kids and raise the level of excellence in the classroom, raise the level of learning. And of course, it's all about the kids. So making sure that the kids can experience a better opportunity in this environment as well. So there were 16 total menu options. This was a collaboration. Ron Keolian really did a ton of the footwork once the project was given the go-ahead. He also turned to the technology chair people of the district as well, who gave a ton of great ideas. So everything from USB microphones to a dongle, which would allow us to plug in all those crazy little different ports that Apple changes on us every year and makes us buy new adapters for.
I hear you.
But the one that I chose was the USB mic. So, you know, I hope more than anything in the world that as soon as we can get the kids back in the classroom. That's what we all love. We all want these kids back in the classroom. There's not a person who doesn't, when it's safe and when it's right. So we hope that could happen sooner rather than later. And when that does, I'm going to be ready with my USB microphone to help with the sound. The sound is one of the biggest challenges that we faced. We're making it work, but to use the Roomy Zoomy lingo, The kids in the room, the roomies, they can hear everything that the Zoomies are saying, but with the help of the microphone, it will help the Zoomies, the kids that are virtual, hear what their peers are saying around the room with the same clarity that they can hear their teacher who's standing right next to their iPad or their laptop. So I think that'll just have such an impact to where the teacher is no longer kind of repeating, oh, and that's what Sarah said, that's what Ayush said, right? Where you're just kind of making it so that your virtual students can resonate with what their peers are saying. But there are a lot of options from all the way down to the last two options that the teaching and learning department helped us with, which was being able to choose a subscription of your choice, right? Because, hey, maybe you thought of something that we didn't. Here's so-and-so amount of money towards the subscription for the remainder of the year. Or books on building awareness around equity and implicit bias, right? So that's a topic that a lot of people are incredibly interested in right now. And those books, they last forever, right? So we were excited about that option as well. So it's a major initiative. Teachers and staff have till November 16th to make their choices, and then the rollout of those items is going to be a big haul as well. But we're excited about it.
In light of everything, just to kind of start to sum it up, do you think our students are still getting a quality public education here in the Troy School District?
I can say that without a shadow of the doubt that is the case. And in many cases, some of the things we're doing are once again, to go with that same theme, we're actually doing some things that we wouldn't have been able to do in a normal year. I have no doubt in my mind that this world-class system with world-class teachers and administrators and principals and ancillary staff, everybody is working harder than we've ever worked in our entire lives to make this an experience that is equal to or not greater than any other year that we would have. Does it look a little bit different? Of course. Is this challenging? Of course. Are some teachers having different experiences based on their ability with tech? Absolutely. Is it perfect? We're trying to make it as perfect as possible, but perfection is not necessarily the goal. It's just that we are trying to build that world-class education experience for the kids. And I absolutely feel that we are. Sometimes I'm just in awe. I'll just be in class and I'll think to myself, like, this is incredible. What if this was 1999? You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking to a student that's in another classroom and they're hearing their peers. I mean, you just have to step back and say, my goodness, in the amount of time that we had, and this is not just for Troy, this is for public education across the world. In the time that we've had, we've made miracles happen. I really believe it. It's absolutely incredible. And it's just, that doesn't mean, whether you think the glass is half full or the glass is half empty, the point is that the glass is refillable. And I think that everything that everybody in the district is doing right now is having that glass is refillable mindset. And we know there's a silver lining coming. We know that this is not forever. And I'm just astounded with the resiliency of the students and the staff and the leadership. It's been a unique experience that I know I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I mean that in a positive way. So it's been an incredible year, and it's really just getting started. So I feel confident moving forward.
Well, Mr. Germansky, thanks for taking the time to speak here today. We appreciate all that you do, surely.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. It's been an awesome experience. And I've enjoyed listening to the podcasts that, were in the past. So thank you again for inviting me.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm always welcome to have as many people listening to this as we can. Love hearing that. So thank you. And on that note, listeners, don't forget you can subscribe to TSD World Class Podcasts on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform, where you'll find all kinds of content and resources. You can also connect on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's our show. Stay well, everyone.